On this week's episode of Let's Talk Dog Business, we have Shari Teigman talking all things personal development.
Shari, my beautiful, our wonderful, wonderful friend, how are you?
I am good. I'm very excited about talking some dog business with you too.
Love it. Love it. So, we gush over you a lot. We talk about you a lot. We think you are epic and fantastic in all the right ways. But not everybody is going to have a Scooby-Doo on who you are. So,
and not everyone loves me. So there we go. But I could start every morning like this. I am Shari Teigman. I am a performance mentor and a creative strategist. So I work with people in their life and their business. I help them unlock and unleash their inner maverick. So doing things on your own term, finding the edge so you're not blending in with the crowd, doing things in a way that really feels in alignment with who you want to be, and making life and business a lot more fun than it can feel on some tough days.
Ooh, making business fun is definitely what we're about.
And we can attest to all of those things because you are actually our mentor.
And I feel very lucky about that. Oh. So I love you too right back.
Yeah, we've been wanting to do this for a while, haven't we?
Yes.
So we're feeling good about today.
Indeed. So making business fun.
How?
What are those crazy words?
How do you do that?
So it's a great question because most people think that it's a completely separate thing. So no one gets into the business thinking they're going to, within a couple of years, make their lives miserable, be up all night crying, hate human beings, hate finances, hate admin, not sure if they should just go get a job at Tesco, which is not a problem if you like Tesco. But we have these idealistic views of how business is going to look. And then the reality comes in. And as we all always joke, personal development and business go hand in hand. When we least expect it, all your stuff comes up. It's a container for growth in both ways. So when I say that I like to make business fun, it's not some naive, fluffy, tagline. It's more, if we don't actively make sure that we are in alignment with our business, that we make sure that it represents who we are. And sometimes that means finding out who we are first to then make sure that it is still infused in the business, and vice versa, that our business fits our life, then we end up creating something that works for everyone else but us. So I wouldn't say there's a how to make business fun, but there's a tab at the top of every time we take out our business spreadsheets that we need to make sure we include ourselves, finding out what it is we really want, what it is we really do, who we do it for, who we do it with, and how we make that something that we're proud of every day. I'm not going to say every day is fun, but that we're proud of the work that we do, that we feel the fulfillment, that success for us looks like what we want it to, not someone else's metrics. So I would say there's a lot more undoing than there is of doing when it comes to the right strategy and the right mindset. Is we don't just pick up someone else's business plan and run with it. We have to check in with ourselves often. And especially when you have a business partner, we have to check in with each other. These are relationships. It's all about relationship and communication with our clients, with our businesses outside of ourselves, which to me, our businesses are entities that become almost like the Frankenstein we create. And then is it a monster in the closet, or is it something that we enjoy spending time with? And these are questions most people don't ask about themselves or their business.
Yeah. And I think for me, coming on this business journey, the growth of the business is one thing, but the growth of myself, that is a whole other thing I had never considered. I didn't have a clue I'd have been going on the journey that I'm still going on now.
Yeah. Totally blind to it.
If you knew, you probably wouldn't have done it.
Let's be honest,
probably not. You, it's going to look like this. You're like, you know what? I'm good over here. I'm okay. Thanks. No, thanks.
Yeah. So actually, that's probably quite a good question. Should people be aware of it, or shouldn't they? Will it put them off totally if we say?
I'd say both. Just like when you get into a relationship, or you're both married, I'm divorced. Had we known at the start what it would be like, I think a nice dose of naivete and idealism is a very important thing at the start of a business. So I don't mean that dismissively. It's what brings that fire into making something happen out of nowhere. If we knew all of the things and we were warned, most of us would be scared to do anything in life. Relationships, having children, having pets. For you guys, every dog owner that you help, they had no idea what they were getting into. And they're madly in love with this little thing that's driving them crazy because they're probably driving the dog crazy. Let's be honest. So a little bit of naivete is an important thing to keep because it keeps us kind of above water of, I'm not going into that black hole on purpose. I say that tongue in cheek. It's a wonderful experience, but unknowns are scary. So we all, in any area of our life, have to go in with what we think it's going to be, because that's the only way we can get ourselves into motion. Then the reality comes and we build the skills on the way. We don't have them before we start, and we won't know what we need in the toolbox until we're in it. So I think just like before someone gets a dog, everyone who has a dog gives them advice, or just before you have a child, everyone tells you what it's going to be like. Nobody listens anyway. So if someone told you before, you wouldn't have listened. So let's not make ourselves crazy of, I wish I would have known this. You actually don't, because you're not even that old person anymore. So I like to make sure that people pay attention to the achievements and the growth they've had, even if they're not yet where they want to be, because along the way is how we become who the business needs us to be, wants us to be, preps us for our growth. Like if day one, I told you guys what, let's say this year would have given you, you would have looked at me like I had 3 hits. But now it almost, we adapt very quickly. Human nature, it's primal for us. We adapt very quickly, it becomes our new norm. And then we want the next level. So the reason we have to stop and celebrate is to look back, not to bring old stuff with us, but to check our achievement and say, I've survived every bad day I've had so far. So that's pretty good. Good statistics on that one. I never thought I could do what I've done already. So anything else that I don't know how to do is just a learning curve. It's not okay, well, I got to here and now I'm done. I'm tapping out, tag me out of the game. I don't want to be in here. So I'd love to say we would have a formulaic manual to who we need to become, but we wouldn't know how to follow it. So we have to do this in the naive, not knowing way. It's the only way.
Yeah. And I think that's such a great piece of advice, is to stop, reflect, look back at where you've come from, because I think we weren't great at doing that when we started this journey, and we've got better at it from like your advice as well. But I think that's great for anybody that's starting out on the growth journey of changing their business in some way. It's stopping and having those little milestone moments to just go, oh, wow, like, okay, I'm not where I want to be just yet, but I've come really far on that journey already.
Yeah. Or even if you're in utter like shit creek at the moment and you're hating every single part about it, you have the ability to be able to change it, but also you got here for all the right reasons, even if it feels like shit. Like there's going to be some
Absolutely.
gold nuggets in there somewhere.
Yeah, and I think we have this imaginary, because of the way social media is run, is we see everyone's big wins thrown all over the place. No one talks about how great it is if you got up another day to do something hard, or you made a hard phone call, or you cut off communication and put some boundaries in place with someone in your life or business that isn't working, or you fired a team member. Like those are as big as we hit X amount of pounds in a month, like cool. But since that's not always repeatable the same way as the bad days are repeatable, if we don't measure what's in front of us, we don't actually know what's happening, and we just wait for the next high. And that's why a lot of entrepreneurs fail, because highs are a very dangerous place to be. It becomes addictive. It doesn't matter what the substance is. The response in our nervous system is the same way. And, we have these highs, and then no one talks about what the lows feel like. Riding those waves is I would say, even a bigger achievement than just measuring the wins, because you won't have another win if you don't know what to do in between them. So I think it's the unsexy part of learning what to measure and not being embarrassed. Was like, I can't believe this is an achievement, that like I got out of bed and put my work costume on again. But it is. And we have to give ourselves that, because no one else is going to.
Oh, do you remember that conversation you had with us when we launched the podcast and we were that excited about everything going really well? And you were like, right, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news here, but there is
terrible, because you were so happy. I was like, okay, girls.
I don't want to burst your bubble.
Hold on, let's just take this moment, take a snapshot. Let's put it on the mantle. When you don't feel like this, that's not a bad thing. And this is not the only feeling. And it's frustrating, because we want it all to be all those moments.
Yeah.
And everyone else looks like they only have those moments. So that's the hard part.
Yeah. And this is again, we've just done an episode on us kind of bearing all, really. And we wanted to do that for that exact reason, to say like, it's not all just, it's not great all the time.
It's not like rose-tinted glasses look at everything, is it?
It's more not great than it is great. But yeah, we all like to celebrate the wins.
Yeah.
So,
but the overall bit is great.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing to almost wrap it up in, and going, within that nice little neat box with the pretty bow on top, you've got everything in there, like everything,
Absolutely.
not just all the good stuff.
Yeah. Do you think it's possible to have an amazingly successful business and not do the growth with yourself, not go on that journey in a personal development sense?
I personally don't think so. And I know there are a lot of people who argue that point with me, but if you don't hit the lows, you can't go as high as you can go. So if you aren't willing, because we have the lessons to learn, and who we are is who we are in our business. We don't, many people try to have like a home persona and then a work persona. And even people in job roles struggle with this. So even more so when it's your own business. If you have closets that are closed because we're not willing to look at our idea of failure, our idea of success, how we show up, how we communicate, where our triggers and our frustrations are, then we're limited in the bandwidth that we have for success in our business. Something will happen and I won't feel it. So I have a lot of clients who are highly successful. Let's say have a great launch and they'll call me and they felt absolutely nothing and they're terrified by that. So we can't just assume that when the business does well, we're going to know what to do with it. A lot of people get imposter syndrome. We have fear of visibility. The container grows too much, new level, new devil. So it's like, this is more money than anyone in my family's ever had, or I now out earn my partner and now I've got to have hard conversations. We can't keep all the feathers in that pillow. So if we aren't ready for the personal growth of how do we face the ups and downs of what happens even in a wildly successful business, then A, we don't know what to do on the hard days. And B, we don't know how to hold the good days either, because this is a big stretch outside of us. We go to homostasis. We are wired for regular days. We're not wired for high and we're not wired for low. We get scared. So not everyone needs to then go get certified in 45 different mindset modalities. I'm not saying that, but we do have to be willing to look at our personality traits. We do have to be willing to look at our communication styles, our fear of success, our fear of failure. How do we react to people when we have both? Where are our tough conversations? Our own internal labels. That's a non-negotiable. Whether someone wants to call it that or not, some people just naturally know themselves better. And some people have no idea and they skip over it hoping the business will plaster over that stuff. And it can't. What it does more is exposes where our growth places are. You could choose what to do with them, but it's going to be highlighted.
Yeah. When you was talking then, all I could think about was a typical, air quote, trainer who is striving to, a dog trainer that is, who is striving to go, do you know, I'm currently working all the hours. I'm working all weekends and all evenings and fitting it in around the client's life more so than my own. And all I want is that time back. And I maybe want to work 3 days a week, possibly with an online course to bring some money in, and then I'm good. And it's, would you be good though if you had that? And it's an interesting question to muse.
So probably at the beginning, and then once you get it, you don't even remember saying that. And that's what I mean is along the way. And I think we need those markers. Like I know a lot of people are very into the quantum leap and dream as big as you can and don't settle for less than that. I'm not wired like that. I'm very driven. I'm very rebellious. I'm very mavericky. I'm very visionary. And I crave a lot of safety. So I can't jump to the 5-year vision. It'll look like that. I do what I want tomorrow to look like. Like I like certainty. And I always say I hate change, but I love growth. So knowing what you want for the next step is the great next step. Just don't make that permanent. So it's like, that's all I want. And when I get that, it's like, oh, well, I could have a little bit more. We have to not beat ourselves up when we change our mind. And I think a lot of business owners struggle with that. I said it was going to look like this and it didn't look like that. You're the only one who said it had to look like this. You're allowed to change your mind. So to me, the definition of happiness is being able to solve the problems you like. We love to problem solve. We just don't want problems that are not our problems. So when you come into a problem that you love and you know what to do and you feel like the expert and you're honored as the expert and people listen to what you say and you know how to solve the problem, there's nothing more fulfilling than that. So we get to face the next problem and the next level and the next strategic issue that we love to solve. That's when business owners don't get bored and frustrated. When they get bored and frustrated is like what you just said, Joe, is when it's, it ends there. And I said, I want that. And then all of a sudden your partner's like, you said it was all you wanted. Why are you working till 11 o'clock at night? Why are you off to another retreat and another course? Why did you just drop another X amount of money on a course? Because we're allowed to want more, even if we don't know it from the start.
Yeah. It's I'm always wondering, your face is like, what are you thinking?
Well, I'm just thinking of my next question to you, because I'm guessing that you've worked with people who maybe have had a bit of maybe aren't open to your way of thinking,
yes.
and I'm guessing you've had people that have not really seen that it's any benefit to do this work, and then maybe gone through it and then totally changed their opinion.
Most of my clients are like that because I work with already highly successful people. Like, I don't work with startups. I used to, I don't anymore. So what I love is to sink my teeth into people who already know what to do in work, but they have no idea to do it themselves. And they don't know that their next level of business issue has to do more with them than the next strategic plan or the next investment from an investor, or when I have the next pot of money, it's going to look like that. Like, those are all great things and they get you to a certain point. But when you want to jump over that cliff, I hear it all the time. And I'm obviously American, in case anyone couldn't tell. This is not a speech impediment. This is a New York accent. But I work mainly with Brits for 10 years. So Brits, especially because there's that stiff upper lip thing and there's the never show anyone how you feel. Your culture and environment is not wired like America, where everyone and their dog is on, some antidepressant and everyone's always fine and happy clappy. Like, that's why I like working with Brits, because I find that very annoying about Americans. It's all taped together with happy BS. But with Brits, most people have never asked these questions of themselves. They never had anyone who inspired them like this, because our parents' generation were not like this. You just got on with it and you grinded and you worked hard, and he's a grafter. And that's what it was measured as success. So a lot of my clients will come to me either by force or by desperation someone made them come, because like, you just have to talk to Shari. You don't have to know what she does. Just go in. It's magic. Go do it. So people will be, arms crossed. I work with a lot of men as well. So that's adds to the bravado here. I've heard your stuff is great, but to me, no offense to you, it feels very woolly and fluffy. Like, I'm a really busy, very famous person. I'm very important in my company. I don't need this. And within 20 minutes, they're bawling, and all of the stuff starts unraveling. If we don't unpack and make space for our next level of growth, those identities actually become the bottleneck. That level of success becomes the bottleneck of the next level of success. We grip so tightly to who we are and how important we have to be in the business, even if we wouldn't use those words, that we don't know that to make space, we have to clear our hands and put some of it down. And most of my clients, Vicky, are like that because they've already had something to show for all the hard work without the personal growth part. They're like, but look what I've done. I'm like, amazing. That's amazing. How do you feel? Either horrible, or I'm numb, or I have no my children don't speak to me, or, my health is terrible. All the rest of it comes. So the buckets are mainly filled with the business bucket, and they have no identity in all the other aspects of life. So that's a big sign for me that we've got work to do. But when people grip that identity, they're the most ready, because they don't know what else to do. They have tried everything that they know. They've run out of options. So I hear it all the time. Those are my most fulfilling to help, because I know they would never have gotten there on their own. They couldn't have.
And when you've got somebody with that much resistance, like, give us an insight into the Shari magic then. Where do you start? Yeah. Like, someone's going, I've heard all about you. Like, I'm not, I don't need it. What's the first thing you would do?
So the reason why those are my favorites is because I'm the most stubborn person I've ever met in my entire life. I don't like change. I get very finite when I'm scared. Like, I have a very strong personality. I have a real New Yorker brain. So the 6 inches between my ears, maybe a little more than 6, is a very terrifying place. So I know what it's like to untangle that, because I've been doing it my whole life. I've done a lot of this work on my own. This wasn't always, my life wasn't like this. So I can identify it very quickly. And I know that it's coming from fear and resistance and stubbornness. So I go in. One of my clients said, she's like, "You're loving Nan," which I was offended by, because I don't feel like I have Nan vibes, but whatever. We'll call it loving Ans. Like, whatever. I'm like, what the hell? Like, forget what the rest of the sentence is. I'm not okay with this, but you're loving Nan. And then she goes, New York Mafia on your ass. And that's just, it's a lot of tough love. So people who are at that level are used to people kowtowing to them. So I come in as an equal and they don't know what to do with me because I don't fit in the box. I don't think like they do. I wear colorful clothing. It's like Cat in a Hat walks in, starts opening stuff that no one else is supposed to open. And they're like, whoa, 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 that's locked. I'm like, it's not locked for me. So on a practical way, I let them share with me all of their successes because I know for trust purposes, they need me to know how important they are to themselves and to the people around them, which I find very important too. So I want to hear what they're proud of. I don't only want to hear what is scaring them because they don't know how to access there. So we go through, give me all the achievements, and they're proud and, all puffed up and peacock feathers out. And this is what I've done. And I sold this and blah, blah, blah. Great. What's not working in your life? And because I do that right after I let them talk all about that, they then see that those are as important, they're equal. It's not one over the other. So they'll start. It takes time sometimes. I'm very intuitive, so I don't have to ask a lot of questions. I can sense between what they're saying, and I'll ask one question and it just all crumbles out. It's funny. Right before we got on, I had a client call yesterday with a new client, private client of mine. He did not want the conversation we had yesterday. He came to me because I work both in personal and in business. So he came to me with a real strategic issue for the next level of growth. They just hired 2 more people on the team. He needed a strategic answer. We got on a call. 45 minutes later, he was bawling. It was nothing about business. It was nothing about the strategic problem. It was nothing about the team members. And I waited. I didn't message him because I know sometimes it takes time to process this stuff. And I'm the same way. I get very frustrated. And then after the frustration, the juicy bits come out. Right before, and I just got a voice note from him as we were logging on. And he said, I was not happy with you yesterday. It was not the call that I wanted. And 30 minutes in, I felt everything in me calm down. And it was exactly what I needed. So thank you for always knowing what I need and not letting me lead you where I want to take you like I do with everyone else in my life. And then he sent a text. He goes, we may not have brought it home for those of you non-footballers, or England lost on the other day.
All right.
I mean, he said, we may not have brought it. Exactly. But he writes, we may not have brought it home, but you brought it home. And then he sent me like a success thing from the meeting this morning. So it's the places that my clients are afraid to go to is the land that I live in. So it just becomes a safe place for them because they can't do it anywhere else. And it's so important for us to have someone in our life we can do that with in any form and any stage of business or life. Is we don't know how to go there. So then we have locked doors. So I know he wasn't happy with me. I'm not there to make him happy. I said, I'm not tequila. I'm not going to make you happy all the time. So I said, you may vomit afterwards, but I'll hold that space for someone when they can't access it so that they can do all the things that they're very good at and do them even better once they have more bandwidth inside.
And is there anyone that you haven't managed to crack?
So I'm going to answer this. This will be publicly announced. No. I've never not cracked someone who has come to me. So the caveat there is someone has to come to me. If they come to me, they're ready. In my early years of business, 10 years ago, when I was very good at what I do, my intuition was just as sharp. I was more tentative. So if someone didn't come to me, I could see someone's potential. I would try to get them to their potential before they were ready. And that didn't work for either of us. Now I have more respect for myself and my work. I have better boundaries. I wouldn't say solid boundaries. Let's not lie here. I'm an overgiver. I know when someone's ready and someone's not. So I turn away a lot of people who come and say, I'm ready. And I'm like, I hear you. And I really value that you value my work and you'd like to work with me. You're not ready. So I'll recommend someone else, or I'll give them something to do for a few months and then say, come back to me when you've done this. People get insulted. I've even gotten a testimonial from someone. She made me put it on my website, thanking me for turning her away because it made her face herself. And she said, I went deeper with myself than anything because I wanted to get to the point where I was ready to work with Shari, and I did the work. So when someone is ready, I honestly don't believe there's no one I can't help because I hold no judgment. So it doesn't have to have a certain amount of factors. It's just a readiness. So you don't have to know what to do. I know that part. You just have to be open and willing to cry, push, scream, laugh with me. And I try to make it fun. I try to make it light. I go through the same stuff that I do with clients. So I'm by no means some little Yoda sitting telling you what to do. Is most of my clients are sessions for me too. Like I'll be crying and be like, thank you, I needed that today. You know, like we're just human beings experiencing this stuff together. So if someone's ready, I can help them. And I'm proud to say that.
Lovely. I think there's so much crossover there with somebody helping someone with their dog, like just wrapping it all in, because arguably they're coming to you when they're asking for help.
Yeah. And
So
they're low usually.
They're ready to hear what you have to say. It's just there must be this blocker within ourselves then, whether you call it imposter syndrome or you label it whatever you want, but there is a blocker in us to go like, oh, they're ready, but maybe I'm not. And maybe that's why we don't convert the sales. And maybe that's why we unintentionally maybe do a poor job, or we feel like we've done a poor job because we're not ready. And it's addressing what that actual blocker is. Because I know for me in the early days, I thought I was ready. I put myself out there and went, I'm a dog trainer, come and buy some stuff from me. But you choose what you want, because I'm not making that decision. You do it. You pick and mix from the plethora of services that we have available. Yeah. And then I'll go out and deliver, and I'll be like, feel like I'm totally just bullshitting my way through this. Like just nothing in me. And then as time's gone on, I've got really good at knowing what I'm good at.
Maybe the connection wasn't there as well. Like if you don't have the opportunity to connect with somebody because you don't work with them for long enough, or all of those things that we kind of encourage.
There isn't that human connection anywhere, is there? Like, and I think that's
missing.
This is the hard bit with this industry, isn't it? Because you're having to deal with both the human element and the dog element. But arguably the initial contact is the human, because without the human, you're never going to get to the dog.
And the dog is probably the easier one to solve than the human.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
So much of this can be applied to the way that people and their clients work together, or ineffectively or effectively.
And also a lot of it comes from our own confidence in our own work, whether it's a plan or you work more intuitively. When you're trusting yourself, it's easier to get someone else to see that trust you have in yourself and see you as an expert. When we move into that proving energy, which is what we do at the start, or we overgive, or we bend over backwards, or I'll come 3 more times just to prove it to you. There's a power struggle there, and it flips. Like to me, there are 2 ways to communicate with any other living being, whether it's a dog or a person, is we're either in communication and connection, or we're in power struggle. So when we're not on the same page from the start, expectations are going to run this, and it can't go well because you're running 2 different television shows, where when you can read the room and be okay with whatever that is. So Joe, like you said, if it wasn't going to work from the start, we always know it's not going to work from the start, but then we go, oh, but if I could just get this one right, it'll give me that feather in my hat, and then I'm good enough. Or, this is going to be my target, but I could crack them. Like, that's already such a red flag. And so many of us do it at the start, especially when we're, again, that idealistic, I want to help everyone and I can do this and I can do that. We can't. Not everyone wants help. Not everyone knows how to receive help, or they've got other stuff in the way. That has nothing to do with us. And we have to know that line within ourselves, because then we don't step into experiences and relationships that don't work for us. And that's respecting your business as well. Like, what will this do to my business?
And I think it's going back to those blockers, isn't it? Because with clients, it's really easy to get frustrated with clients that don't do the work. So you set them the homework, the goals to do before the next session. And if people don't do that, it's immediately like, why aren't they doing it? What's wrong with them? Like, why haven't they done the work? I mean, do they want to help this dog or don't they? And we immediately go to that defensive, that first of all, there's a few things there. One, they're not going to view their dog like we do, because they're not going to. As much as they love that dog, they're not passionate about it and live and breathe it like we do every day. And second of all, they've got lives. They've got stuff that's going on every day. And thirdly, is there something blocking it? Is there a fear surrounding doing that homework? And invariably, we found this out so much when we've merged our training business together. you know that when the person isn't doing it, it's not because they aren't listening to you or you're not explaining it properly. There's some reason why they're not doing that work. So it's down to us to try and figure that out and have that conversation, or many conversations, to try and figure out what's the reason that isn't happening.
And to me, that's the value of the coaching, because people will say often to me, I'm not Miss Accountability. I don't do details. I don't check details. I'm a big vision person. So when someone wants to come, if let's say I have a monthly call with them, like you guys have, I don't care if you did your homework, because to me, the best work is when you guys get stuck. So if someone comes to me and said, I didn't do what I committed to last month, that's when we get to roll our sleeves up and find out why. And you just nailed it, is they don't know how to do it, or something got in the way. That's what they're paying for. That's why they need us. No one's hiring me so they can get a gold star on their forehead every time they do something well. It's I know you know how to do things well. I know, we know they don't get everything wrong all the time, but it's those aspects that they don't know what to do is the insurance policy as to why they have us in their back pocket. This is what we're there for. And I think that's the value of the mentorship, the coaching, the whatever service provider. They're paying for that. Like, I don't call my plumber when the pipes are fine. I call them when I have a problem. So when we identify a problem of, I thought I could do it, they gave me the directions, and now the dog's just looking at me and I'm not doing it. Why am I not doing it? They pick up that call. Right there's the value. In that moment is your expertise to their problem. And people don't know how to value that. That's why we then do the overproving, or we're afraid, or if I just throw in all the bells and whistles, that's not why they're hiring you.
Yeah. It's very much a fix it mindset on behalf of it. And I'll hold my hands up because I'm a human being, and I definitely go into that mode every now and again. I'm like, oh God, let me just give it to me and I'll fix it. Whether that's the dog or our coaching clients. I'm like, oh, if I could just do that thing, then it's done.
But it's also the value in not taking the surface level answers, isn't it? So we know with our CBA coaching clients, we dig, and we've had some real revelations.
We
recently.
make people cry as well now, Shari.
We're now you. We make
so
people
proud.
cry. It's the benchmark, isn't it? Can we make people cry? We get it that. But we also know now with our dog training clients that the more you ask questions, you'll find out the real blockers. So we had a client quite recently who wasn't doing their homework and was saying things like time was a problem and just things have gotten in the way. And you could take that answer, and that could be a perfectly valid reason. But underneath, I knew there was more to it. And it turns out with, lots of questions and conversations, she was actually worried about being able to hold the dog and control the dog and what could happen, almost like catastrophizing. Like, if I take this dog out as regularly as they're saying, am I going to be able to manage it? Or am I going to end up on my arse basically down the road? And that was only through that connection and depth of conversation and questions, asking the right questions. And we got there. So I think it absolutely needs to be applied to dog training clients as well, doesn't it? This,
you've got to start thinking about.
It's creating safety.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, safety is so important, isn't it? Because without it, it's that trust bit. That whole business piece just has to come together, doesn't it? Because then it's in your messaging. It's like, how can somebody feel safe from the messaging that you're putting out? How can somebody feel safe enough to actually pick up the phone and inquire, to want to work with you? How are they going to feel safe to open up to you if they have indeed made the decision to bring you on board, whether that's to help them with their dog or for what? Even if it's just walking their dog, there's got to be an element of trust and feeling safe with everything. And if you are not very good at understanding yourself and how you can create that safety, I think that's when a lot of things go wrong.
Also, what we forget when we are having those doubts in ourselves, which is human nature and it's okay, but this is why we have to work on it. When we can't present with that, we take it personally when someone doesn't hire us or trust us, or it doesn't work, or that power game flips that, we overgive. Because what we're not factoring in is all the elements that got them to them coming to us. All the other times things haven't worked. The times they Googled Cesar Millan and took the advice and it went completely sideways. All the times the neighbor told them that they couldn't do this. We are facing all of the times that they're afraid of when something new comes in. They can't see us yet. So we need to be that beacon of shining light saying, I know you've tried things before. and this is going to be different. And we have to stand by that. And frankly, with integrity, which unfortunately a lot of people in our industries don't have all the time, this isn't just a number, in the bank account. Is if I can't help them, I have to be honest, because I'm asking them to trust something they're afraid to trust. And when you build that trust, anything's possible because they'll be willing to try new things they haven't before. They're coming to you in their worst state to get to their best state. So we're not speaking to our ideal clients. We're speaking to their fears, their failures, their disappointment, their frustrations. That's a very hard person to have a conversation with, which is why our content and our trust and our testimonials and our case studies and a podcast like this, where they get to know you before entering the relationship, is so important, because you build trust long before they speak to you. I can't tell you how many clients contact me and say, I've been binging on you for 3 years, which used to creep me out. But it's like they selling themselves. I don't have to do anything by that point. They're like, oh, you're exactly the way I thought you'd be. I'm like, who else would I be? I have enough trouble being this. You think I can also be someone else? But that's our internal trust build to say, I am someone who does what I promise. And then they come in ready to allow you to.
I love it.
We had that the other day. Somebody interviewed us going, I can't believe you're actually here because I listen to your podcast all the time. We're like, yay.
Lebs.
Yeah. Yeah, it's nice though when you hear people, even just people consuming the podcast, and like some people implement things off the back of hearing this podcast, or, have a go at implementing things. And it's so lovely. Oh, I've created this because of your podcast. You've inspired me to do this. And you're just like, oh my God, wow. And that's just us talking what we would describe as a bit of crap. But it's just us chatting and talking about our experiences and interviewing people and their experiences. And look how much value that gives people.
Yeah, and that's it. And I genuinely put the success of the dog training businesses down to that as well, because we were just us. Yeah. Like there was lots and lots of us everywhere just going, hi,
we're here.
This is who I am. This is what I believe in. This is who we're talking to. This is what we've done. This is the credibility that we've got. And people are like, oh, okay. Yeah. Like it's an easier in, isn't it? It's like that, because that safety net's there.
But like you say, who wants to try and be 2 different people or even 3 different people? Yeah.
It's exhausting.
You can't do it.
It's hard, isn't it? You can't just keep putting all those different hats on. There's wearing different hats in terms of like, right, okay, now I need to do a more like boring task versus, yay, I can do my super high energy one. But you're not a different person. That's just a different task.
No.
And I think blanket, generic wise, I think a lot of people think that they have to be different, like in front of camera or on social media.
Absolutely. It's interesting. I started my first podcast in 2015. No one even knew what podcasting was, including me. I didn't even know where to find them, but I like talking and there's a microphone, so let's go. And when I started it, people asked me like, why are you doing that? Because it wasn't popular then. And I said, because there's so many people in the world who don't know how to have our kind of conversations. They don't know how to have the depth or ask the right questions or ask themselves that question, let alone someone else. So if they're not ready to have that, they're ready to hear them. And when we show up in our content, when we show up and present ourselves in a certain way, we answer the questions they don't know how to ask, which then automatically builds trust, because we showed them a side of us that then they can bring to us what they're ready for, because we've already shown them who we are. And that's such a beautiful thing to bring to the world in such a crazy world, like to show up authentically and to such a fluffy word, but to just be yourself and not try to perform for anything, that actually makes people feel worse. If you guys came on with this like professional, organized, it has to look like this, what person would come to you with their dog or their business? They try to clean before the cleaner because they need to clean up before they get to you. That's the opposite of what we want. We want people to come to us with their frustrations and their fears so that we can help them not have them anymore.
Are you saying we're not professional and organized?
As I said it, I was like, you do have an amazing logo and your colors are extremely coordinated today. I'm all party on the top and I have pajamas on the bottom. So this is professional for me. So I'm going to get, there's a middle finger behind me over there.
Yeah, I love that. I always look at that.
I know. I always want to. I want the picture.
Yeah, it's great. Can I ask you about your journey from how did you get into what you did? Because I actually don't know the answer to this question.
Oh, this is interesting. I always forget because I've told it a few times and I forget who's heard it and who hasn't. So it's an interesting road. So I grew up modern Orthodox Jewish right outside New York City in like the little enclave bubble. Little Stepford life, perfect schooling and family and all that. I got married very young at 23. I had my kids at 25 and 27, and lived a very traditional life. I was an artist. I did mosaic furniture. I was a makeup artist for 20 years. And that was my life. That was how I grew up. And that's how everyone around me was. And the maverick in me was bubbling. And I wasn't happy in my marriage. I built a kid school for my kids, and I was always on the go. Same personality, just in a different format. I was once watching one of my sons. My kids are now 24 and 22, but when they were little, I was watching back a video my ex-husband took of one of my son's birthday parties. And it was like a dramatic movie moment. I was holding a bunch of plates as it was on the TV while the kids were watching it. And I caught a glimpse of myself, and the plates dropped out of my hand. I am very bubbly and vivacious. I don't shut up. I have a lot of energy. And as though you two don't know that. And my eyes looked completely dead. I didn't look like myself. I looked like a drone. And I had lost myself. And I was worried that there wasn't going to be anything left for my kids. And I didn't want to teach my children that if you're not happy, you just stay for everyone else. So in that naivete, like we talked about earlier with their business, it's the same in life. I had no idea what that would mean, but I asked for a divorce, and it was a very rough, long divorce. And it turned me upside down, turned all of us upside down. I went on a very long road 3.5 years later, single mom with 2 little kids, left with a couple of garbage bags, a lot of rough stuff that out of respect for my kids and to not trigger anyone who likes to be triggered in my world. I don't share those details because everyone's got their version of the story, but this is my version and my truth. And I started from scratch. So once I survived all of that stuff, is actually when it went dark, because I was running on adrenaline and I knew what I didn't want for so long. And so many of us run our lives on what we don't want, that when I finally was free and safe, I just saw black in front of me because I hadn't gotten up to what I wanted. I had no idea what to do next. I grew up a certain way, surrounded by people just like me. So I didn't know what there was out in the world. So I started this personal development thing more because I couldn't stand the quiet of my mind, and I love learning. So I started reading and listening to like what I now know are summits online. This was pre-podcast. This was 15 years ago. And I was like, oh my God, there are people who think like me. And there are terms and words for this stuff. And I didn't know all of this existed. So I went down the rabbit hole, and I loved it. And I was like, this is what I was meant to do. So I did a year-long yoga teacher training and a year-long coach training because, of course, I don't do anything halfway. So I immersed myself for a year and emerged, not a different me, but a me I was proud of, living for myself and all that. I started my coaching business 10 years ago. And even then, I started it up and I had freed myself from all this stuff. And then I put this website up with these perfect little pictures. And I was like the stepwise version of a coach now, with all the alignment words, and my copy read the same. I couldn't figure out why no clients were coming to me. And then I objectively looked at it one day. I'm like, who the hell would hire her? I look like this perfect little topper on a cake. It was like this big poofy skirt. I'm like, what? I'm doing it again. I didn't know what to do other than that. And I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm a maverick. I'm doing it my way, or I'm not doing it all. And I had a new photo shoot with a friend of mine. I lived 10 minutes outside New York City. So we went in, I took pictures with homeless people on the street, fingers up, like full on Shari. I wore a Thug Life t-shirt, like, fuck it. I'm either doing it my way or I'm not going to do this. And it obviously exploded since then, because I'm a life coach who doesn't talk about affirmations all the time. I don't believe in positivity all the time. I think we have to feel what we feel. I think business is allowed to be gritty and hard and fun and truth telling. And I had to birth myself first, which is why when you asked earlier, is there anyone I haven't cracked yet? No, because cracking me was the hardest thing I ever had to do. So everyone else is easy for me to get into. I know the resistance intimately. I still feel it a lot. I still go back to that scared girl, 20-something-year-old girl. So I emerged this, and the intuition was always there. The knowledge was always there. The puzzle piecing was always there. I just had to become me first, and then the business followed, which is why I believe in this so much, because I know it like I know myself.
Oh, I love that. That's quite emotional listening to that. And also, I remember you sharing those pictures, and it does not look anything like you.
Doesn't look anything like me. No.
You know, I can totally relate to that when you say about if you can crack yourself, everyone else is easy. Because I'm kind of feeling like that at the moment, actually.
Yeah.
If I can do
I'll
me.
make a joke. It's like you could be the best back surgeon in London. You can't operate on yourself. So when you learn how to navigate your internal world, looking from the outside is easy. Like I could see your stuff easier than I could see my own. But out of integrity, I wouldn't help anyone and take anyone anywhere I haven't gone myself. So I will always throw myself first, annoyingly sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just goes to show again, though, doesn't it? Like the importance of having people in your life like to lean on.
Yeah.
We jokingly say it all the time. I was like, the best people in my life now are the people that I initially paid for.
Yeah, you do say that.
My paid for friends are the best people
You didn't pay for me
in my life.
Did you?
No, you paid for her though. So it's fine. It went that way.
There's money
In a
exchange
roundabout
somewhere.
way. In a roundabout way. Yeah, it's been there.
But yeah, it's and I do joke, but I say it from a place of love as well. In that it's a genuine friendship that's evolved from it. But because it doesn't seem to exist in the air quote normal life, like I have.
But also remember why?
It.
Because the relationship started on more honesty than unfortunately a lot of our family and friends do. Or people, I read something yesterday, is like people get stuck on the last version they had of you that they felt a semblance of control over. So that's why sometimes people have family issues. My hardest time all year of coaching is around the holidays times, because people have to climb back into their family structures or shrink their success and turn down their light to go be belonging with their family or their friends who don't think like them. And it's heartbreaking to think that we have to choose one or the other. So when we have chosen family and chosen friends like masterminds and like the mentors and friends or collaborative people that we work with, we're all starting from the same point of we're choosing our growth. We have more in common. It doesn't mean we don't love our other people, but our relationships are built from different versions of ourselves. We're here. We're all headed towards growth and expansion. It's a lot easier to have our kind of conversations. Like we joked on the retreat. We just got back from a retreat together and I can't do small talk. You want to show me your soul, I'll speak to you for 12 hours straight with not even a water break. But if you start talking to me about fluffy stuff, my brain pickles. I actually can't speak. So like at breakfast time, I sit by myself because I've got to recharge. And I don't want people to think I'm rude, but when I don't do that, I'm so depleted from the regular talk. And that's taken me a long time to be able to be open and honest about, because the recovery, I used to be very extroverted. I was the dance on tables person and the life of the party. I was doing it as avoiding what I was really feeling. So now to honor myself, I have to stay in my kind of conversations. Doesn't mean I'm not nice to other people, but life's too short.
Shari, you've nicked my question. That was my next question.
What?
My question.
Let's ask it and I'll answer.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is how I was going to frame it. I really admire your boundaries in yourself, because you always really clearly say, whether you're at EE or whether you're at something like the retreat we're on, like I will talk to you all day long, but I won't be here when like you lot are all socializing. I will be in my room or I'll be sat in a corner and please don't approach me. Like, and I wanted to ask you, how did you?
I can't do that. I'm not ready for that.
Okay, I got here from making myself sick. Honestly, I got here because I never used to do it. I was an open vessel for everyone. I'm very empathic, so I take on everyone's stuff. I feel everything, even when I don't want to. And I used to be just on all the time, and I'd be in bed sick for 2 weeks, like an emotional flu. I couldn't get up. So because I have to people beautifully, I get to people so much in my work. In order for me to show up how I want to show up, I had to sacrifice the regular life stuff. Like this is my purpose and mission in life, which means if I'm the messenger, I've got to take care of the container that messenger comes in. And if I do both, I'm not good when I need to be good. And I'm depleted and exhausted and I get jaded and I get annoyed. And I don't want to show up like that for myself first or for anyone else. So how I got here was by doing the complete opposite and burning out so many times that I was going to lose the love of what I do. And that is a non-negotiable for me. So I had to put them in place. And I know it probably seems rude. And I've come to a place at the ripe old age of 50, which is ridiculous. So maybe I do have Nan vibes now.
Absolutely not.
Where
No.
Whoever said Nan needs to go in a bin.
For the longevity of the love of what I do, and my love of helping people, I had to choose. And that's where the boundary comes from.
Okay, 2 questions on the back of that then. 1, do you miss the socializing aspect? Yeah?
No.
Oh, you don't?
No, which shocked me because I thought I would. I don't. Because the depth means so much more to me. The socializing is too depleted. Like my brain's just set to a different default. Like if you asked anyone who knows me from age 20 under, they would not believe you. So I joke around with him, like my social toner ran out because I used to use it 24 hours a day. My parents are like that, very extroverted, life of the party, always on. My mom recently passed, but even right before she died when she was fine, social life, they're still Orthodox. So it's like 20 people every Friday night for Sabbath dinner, like nonstop. They're there till 11, 12 o'clock. My eyes are rolling in the back of my head. I grew up in a busy house, always on, they were always helping everyone. They're friends with every generation. It's all I knew. And then I realized, I'm like, wait, this isn't mine. Even though it's a great quality for everyone else, the cost was just too high for me. So I don't miss it. I value depth more than width now.
Okay. And the second question you probably already answered then. If you weren't doing what you do now, would it creep back in?
It's a good question. Probably because I wouldn't be peopling so much and then I would miss the people part. So probably because, I'm on 7-8 hours a day straight talking at the end of the day. I don't even want to use my mouth. Like my kids know, like grunt, like there's nothing left. I leave it all on the court. If I wasn't doing what I was doing, I would absolutely, because my other dream job is an interior designer. I love kids. I would probably work with kids or older people. So I'm a people person. Despite my exhaustion of people, I would just use it in a different way, probably.
I can relate to a lot of what you just said. Actually.
I was thinking that. And actually, I can relate as well. Certainly after my day yesterday of like...
Oh, you were zapped yesterday.
I couldn't speak. I had nothing left to give last night.
She messaged me. She voice noted, I've got nothing left to give.
Like, I don't even,
in that exact way.
I've got nothing. Like nothing was left in me.
I was like, I can't even take it off you.
Yes, that's what I'm like at the end of the days. And then we'll have our big events and I'm on stage in front of 500 people and beautifully everyone wants to come talk to me, follow me into the bathroom. And I'm like, well, how did I create this in my life? I'm like, what the hell? It's crazy. And it's a real honor to hold that because I don't want to be put on a pedestal, but if I can represent hope and expansion for people, that's great. That has nothing to do with me as a person home alone in my pants. It's not that, but it's when we can hold that, we have to honor that holding, but we also have to honor ourselves in that holding, which means if I'm depleted, I got nothing left for you.
Yeah. And it was a weird feeling because it was it's been a while since I've done a day that intense. And I was like, it was such an amazing day. Like the connections I had with every single person on those calls yesterday. You were one of those calls, actually.
I was, proudly.
It was such an amazing day. And then at the end of it, I was like, I had no words. I think I'm
very rare.
And I'm still catching up on that today. So I'm like, oh my God, why have I done 2 days like back to back? Talking, giving.
But it's mentally exhausting taking all that information in and
it is.
It is.
And when you're that level of presence, it's funny. I was listening to a podcast where they're talking about loneliness. It was a beautiful talk. And they were saying studies have shown that when someone has like the transactional conversations, like you go to the corner shop and you pick up a coffee and you say hi to the same person every day, or you make chit chat on the queue in the supermarket, that actually staves off loneliness, where it doesn't only have to be depth of conversation. It could just be human contact of some sort. Those are lighter things to hold. The depth that we hold with our clients and the depth that we get to in ourselves to be able to hold that, both the knowledge and the experience to hold that with our clients. The opposite of loneliness happens. Our cup's so full and so deep that we need the break in order to recharge. So it's different. Like socializing is not this. It's not the same thing. And when we allow ourselves to look at that, we can then learn how to do that. Like not everyone is going to say, I just need a break. I can't do it. And I'm very different. Like when I come to the UK, so travel back and forth, I'm on for the month. And then I come home and I crash and my kids laugh. Like, Mom, you don't leave the house much. I'm like, because of what I do the other months at home, I need to recharge. So as long as we give ourselves what we need, we can fully do it. And lots of people who do what I do love their social time, and weekends is no work, and they, only have like the small talk or the chit chat. And that's great. I'm just not wired for it. So as long as we know what we're wired for and what refuels us, we're fine. And we're also allowed to grow and change in that. I used to not be like this. I may change in a few years and not be like this too. Like I'm headed towards empty nest. My boys had left the house. Now they're back and forth. So like I'm not alone. I was alone for a little while. Then I was being more social. I think one of the most important things as a business owner and as a human is to allow ourselves to have the seasons of what we need. So like, Joe, if you need the break, give yourself that. It doesn't mean anything about anything. It's just the season.
Yeah, it's something we try and talk about a lot, isn't it? That actually the awareness of yourself and how you're showing up and how it can't be the same as everyone. And certainly entering like this business partnership, we realize we show up mentally we show up the same, like we want the same things, we've got the same energy, but we deliver it in a very different way. And our approach to things are different. And that's not a bad thing. And I think if someone's always trying to, aspire or to try and they feel like they should be doing something because that seems to work for you. I was like, it doesn't work for them. I'm the crazy person that is setting my alarm for like 1:30 a.m. to go and sit in the office for several hours. But it works for me because then I'm on in a different way with the kids and everything else. I don't expect anybody else to be getting up at 1:30 a.m. That's crazy.
Although she has suggested it to me a few times.
Well, we're busy, but
she loves it so much.
And I'm like, no.
She doesn't want you to miss out.
Yeah, I'm all right with missing out.
I was like, try it, see what you think.
I've done 5. I did 5 o'clock the other day.
Yeah, you enjoyed that.
I did enjoy that. Yeah, you were really impressed.
I was really impressed. But yeah, it's finding your own thing, isn't it? It's like you don't have to do what everybody else is doing. It's like figure out, and I think that naturally comes as a bit of a byproduct of the more you keep working, the more you keep growing, the more you keep learning. Like I'm loving the early morning bit at the moment. I don't foresee that being a forever thing. I see it as a season, as you so beautifully put it. It is very much this is what's working for now. It's never worked for me before, so it's new and I'm enjoying it, and it'll change again at some point.
I'd love to love it. I'm not sure I'll get there, but I would love to love it. I think that I want to go back to what you like the exhaustion and the kind of you need that break mentally and get away from everyone, because I felt like when I was just dog training that they were intense. Like you do feel like you've taken on someone else's problems to a point. There are people that absorb it and really like it eats them up inside, doesn't it? The problems people are experiencing, all the dogs issues and stuff. And I did used to feel like that, but now we do it with the Canine Business Academy clients, and it's a different level of intensity. And it is literally, like you say, you're present and you are every inch feeling it with them, and you're trying to give them everything that you've got. And it's just a different level of that intensity. How, you say you just kind of, you go home, you hibernate, you just like, don't speak to me. Has that ever impacted on your family?
We've got visions of Shari hibernating.
under a quilt.
Under a big blanket.
I can see it.
It hasn't, because as present as I am in work, if you guys think I'm intense as a coach, you imagine me as a mother. I am so present with my family, and we're not going to cry. So my mom passed away in February, and over COVID, my mom had a stroke, and I happened to have been in Florida for it, which was unbelievable because I hadn't seen them due to COVID. And I stopped everything and cared for her for 9 months. Like when I'm present, I'm present. So that's how I'm wired. And I'm very short, but my heart is most of me. So when someone gets me, they get all of me. So my kids, I'm never too depleted for my kids. I'm never too depleted for my parents. I have a small family. That recharges me, where the small talk drains me. So when it's intentional time with whoever it is, I'm all on. When I have to do the surface level talk, like even with my parents. So since my mom passed, I spoke to my dad every day already. Now I speak to him like 14 times a day. And my dad is, again, more extroverted and social and all that. And he could do small talk. So when I'm with him and I go, let's say, out to dinner with his multitude of friends, and we're out every single night for dinner, and they're just doing small talk, my face is like in my food. It's painful. And he's like, wasn't that great? I'm like, obviously I'm doing it for him, but the presence is never a problem. It's just the surface level stuff. So I don't need a recharge if I'm connected, if that makes sense. Like I can't even watch reality TV because for the same reason, it's just surface. I don't watch TV in general because it's just my brain doesn't have any more room. I'm always thinking and planning and growing and planning new business ideas. And like you guys will pop into my head in the middle of the night. I'm like, oh, I got to tell them this idea. Like my brain works much faster than the rest of me. So to honor my body, I've got to just give it the time that it needs to recharge. It sounds crazy, but
no, it's good. Really good advice.
It is good. It is good. I want to keep talking to you forever, but I'm also conscious that should probably let people get on their way.
But we the good thing is that we can keep talking to her.
We can.
In our own little way.
Anytime you want.
Yeah. So we've got a couple of questions left for you though, Shari. First question, who do you know that could add, I don't know, something to our podcast? What guest should we get on that you can recommend that would be an amazing help for our audience?
Oh my goodness.
And this
I know
can
so
be
many
any
people.
angle you like. Like we have all sort of diversification of guests on here. So anything that you think would help.
I actually have a former client's husband is a dog trainer in Essex, and he's very similar to you guys in the intuitive way that you work. He's awesome and he's very funny. So I can introduce you to him. And like from a thought leadership kind of thing, probably 1 million people. My brain's like now racing.
I love thinking faces of people.
We like fun people. We like intense people. What do we like? I'll make you a whole list.
Any
and all. Send us a list.
Yeah.
I will send you the list, and I will make that intro to the dog trainer. You'll like him. He's funny.
Awesome. And then the final question is, where can people find out more about you if they would like to?
That's an easy one. Instagram's the best way to reach me. So Shari Teigman at Instagram. My website is shariTeigman.com. Come say hi. I believe we can all learn and grow from each other. So if you want to say hi, message me and say you met me on, this podcast, and let me know what you took away from it or a perspective you have on anything we talked about. I think, unfortunately, when people are lucky enough to have mics in front of their mouths and get chances to talk like this, people who listen don't always think they have the same value to give back. And I think we all learn from each other. So I'd love to hear anyone's perspective on stuff.
Love it. Love it. Oh, well, thank you ever so much for joining us, Shari. 2 days in a row. I am
Thank
honored.
you for having me. I love it. Like, what are we doing tomorrow? I'm going to miss you.
I'm in it.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
It's been great. Thanks very much. We'll see you soon.